Welcome to the Tech Insider, where we talk to the people who can give you the insights and trends that matter to you in your business. I'm Christine Grail with Leica Geosystems. I've been covering mobile mapping for more than a decade now, going back to my time as editor of POB magazine. One of the biggest hurdles that a lot of surveyors have had in adopting the technology is the complexity of it, both in the field and in the office. Now, because of technology innovation, that is changing. I'm excited to have as a guest on our program today Andrew Pokorny and Brian Yentes with RW Engineering and Surveying. Andrew and Brian, you have been working with the Leica Geosystems TRK for several months now. What has been the biggest surprise to you in using this technology?
Biggest surprise so far was just how um, quickly it's being adopted into our workflow, as well as when we have conversations with some of our consultants that we work with, just how interested they are in the technology as well. So not only are we able to use it to supplement what we're doing, but it's also kind of opening the doors in business development, the conversations we can get into. So.
I would echo that sentiment. When we have taken data and we have produced just some point cloud videos for just an exhibit drawing to show, not an exhibit video to show our clients. When I go to a business development lunch and I pull out my laptop and I show that video, 100% across the board, people have been just blown away by the amount of data that the mobile mapper collects, by the quality of the data, and even just the point cloud in general. You can see you can see trees, you can see every minute detail that this mobile mapper can pick up. And so I think it's already proven very fruitful from just a business development standpoint, in that people are now starting to see the power that this unit has and what we can provide for them, as well as we don't need to go back to a site if the extents of a project, if we need more data or we need a bigger area, we most likely already have it. So
Right.
we don't need to make a second trip to the field to collect data because we've already have it.
Yes, and with Nebraska being such a large state geographically, oftentimes we might be 6.5 hours away from site. So being able to reduce those return visits, on top of reducing the overall duration of the project, has been a win-win for us.
Agreed.
Well, and being able to have clients that are blown away by what you are presenting, that has to be a fun thing for an engineering firm like RW Engineering.
Definitely. It's, I think this industry, especially surveying, in the deliverable or what we give to an engineering client that's about to design a roadway or a state highway or county highway, what have you, is it's been pretty 2D. It's been static. It's been white sheets of paper with black lines with all the features, from the roadways to the trees to signs, so on and so forth. It's been that way for quite some time now. And the fact that we can go out there, we can drive a road corridor, be it urban, be it rural, what have you. And now we have this point cloud data that we do our feature extraction from. Number one, you have that three dimensionality component associated with that data, meaning if we need to get the exact diameters of trees, we can get the diameters of trees. We have it. It's not the old school survey standard point where you have an individual guessing the diameter of a tree. We have it. And so that has already proven fruitful in a previous project where the client wanted to know because they wanted to save trees at a certain trunk diameter or larger. And so it took Andrew all of 1 hour to go in there for 50 some trees, get a diameter, send it off to the client, done and done. We did not need to send a second crew another crew back to to pick up that data. We had it. So that's very powerful right then and there.
That speed is amazing. And so tell me a little bit about RW Engineering. I know you're based in Nebraska, but you serve clients in a number of different states. Do you serve clients outside of DOTs? Just tell me a little bit about the work that you're doing.
Go ahead, Andrew.
We service kind of a full range of clients from DOTs to private industry. We're not kind of just pigeonholed into the DOT projects. We do a decent amount of long linear corridor roadway or highway projects, but we also do some urban development. So sometimes we're working directly for a DOT, sometimes we're working directly for another consultant that is maybe working for a private job or for or even underneath of a DOT or other government entity. But we're not really stuck in one direction, I guess, with our clients. We've kind of fanned out a little bit to a wider range. But our projects typically will go from um, either just straight survey collection and then handing off that data to another engineering and consulting firm to do design, or it could be all the way down to we do the design and doing layout or other survey objectives, but it's not all just one thing that we're doing. It's pretty diverse.
To piggyback on what Andrew said, we are working on, and we do have a diverse client base from government entities, from the county level to the city level to the state level to private entities such as large design firms, civil engineering design firms that don't have a surveying component to their business. That's where we come in. We become a subcontractor to them. And so we work on the projects that, say, a state government brings to them or a city government or what has you brings to them. They contract with us to do the surveying component. We do the topographic side of things. For a long time, it's been old school, traditional surveying methods, but now with the scanning coming on board, from the terrestrial scanning to the mobile mapping to the aerial LiDAR, we are now using new technologies to collect that topographic data to provide to our engineering client.
So you must be seeing an increase in demand for 3D data for maybe you have more interest in faster turnaround. And so, obviously you saw a need for 3D scanning. Andrew, I believe that you are this 3D scanning coordinator for RW
Yeah.
Engineering. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And how long have you been with the firm now?
About 2.5 years now. They kind of brought me on from another company that was a little further along in the 3D scanning to kind of kickstart things, to um, work on some of the back end stuff to get prepared to increase our 3D scanning workload, and then eventually make a purchase of a mobile and terrestrial unit and aerial unit as well, to really round out that side of the company and develop it. So.
Yeah, I would say that when Andrew came on, we had no scanning capabilities whatsoever. So we have gone from 0 to 200 miles an hour, I think extremely fast. Within under a year, you could say, we made the decision to get a terrestrial based or a tripod based scanner. And then we've added scanning robotic total stations to our arsenal. And now we've added the mobile mapper to our, you could say, tool belt as well. And so, and we've had success at all levels of purchase. We have purchased a piece of equipment and we've been using it immediately. It hasn't just sat there. And so I feel that Andrew has done a good job. And I think just our team in general, that we've been working hard to really focus on new areas that we can use the scanning that we would have done traditionally in the past. Well, let's scan it now, or let's use the mobile mapper. So I think it's really been an RW team effort to see opportunities within our existing just standard workflows to use the scanning capabilities to speed up the data collection. And number two, have just a lot of data so that we don't have repeat trips to a job site.
That is an impressive development, just over the last couple of years to see how far you guys have come. And it sounds logical on the one hand, just okay, yeah, we're going to add terrestrial scanning and then we're going to add mobile mapping. But the reality, of course, as you know, is it's not necessarily an easy step from terrestrial based, tripod based laser scanning to mobile
Mhm.
mapping. It's been a big hurdle for a lot of companies. And so I'm curious why mobile mapping for RW engineering and why now? What is it that kind of led into that decision?
Well, I'd say it's kind of a multifaceted reasoning on why now. I mean, the first being that it seems like maybe contractors in the state of Nebraska and surrounding states are having a more and more difficult time keeping up with some of these longer projects, long linear projects around the state. It's more and more difficult every year to find um, good talent that is also willing to be on the road long term to do some of these projects. So when we look at, I'll just take one that we just recently did after we picked up the TRK 700. We had a 25-mile corridor out about 6.5 hours away from the office. And considering what it would have taken to do it traditionally between the drive time there and back and the amount of distance that would be covered. I mean, we were talking 4 to 6 months of doing it traditionally, whereas with this system here, we're able to get out there and take that 4 to 6 months of, you know, 2 or 3 guys being away from their family. We were able to chop that down to like I was out there, for a week, and we had another couple guys out there for another couple weeks after that, and then that was it in terms of time away from our families. And so that really opens up the pool for the different jobs that we can get, and we can really expand out and cover a much larger footprint, but also we can capture and post process much more quickly than we were able to before. So we'll have a deliverable out to the client within about 2.5 months from the notice to proceed, versus we would have still been not even halfway done with collecting the data in the field had we gone the traditional route. And there's a lot that goes along with that as far as personnel. It's not just, it's a hard ask to say that
Yeah.
you're going to be going out on the field or out in the field for 4 to 6 months. I hope you have your personal affairs in order. We'll see you later.
Well, especially in
So
today's day and age, I mean, resources are just stretched so thin. And so you want to make sure that you're positioning yourself as a people friendly place of employment to make sure that you get the best possible talent. But the reality is, you have to get the job done. So, how do you balance the two? And really, it sounds like technology is providing a way to bridge that.
it certainly is. And another aspect I didn't really hit on was the fact that we would have had guys standing on a highway um, for that 4 to 6 months, and we were able to take that time where guys could potentially be, out there over the winter, slick roads, distracted drivers. We took that aspect out of it by going this direction. Also improves kind of our safety profile as a company.
Yeah, I mean, if you do the numbers, if you had a two-person survey crew doing 25 miles of a roadway topographic survey, that is hundreds of people hours, man hours on a road in situations where if somebody gets distracted,
Mm-hmm.
we could have an injury or fatality. So, from a safety perspective, it's huge because we are improving our safety profile dramatically by driving it with the TRK 700, the mobile mapper, and we are taking people out of harm's way. Um, and it just provides for a safer work environment. And I think it helps to boost morale too,
Mm-hmm.
because the field personnel, they understand I'm not going to be out in this roadway dodging traffic, sometimes not all the time, but sometimes dodging traffic. You need to keep your head on a swivel in those situations to keep yourself safe. You need to keep your head and your eyes watching your partner out there, because you're both watching each other. And so I think it was a huge morale boost when we
Mm-hmm.
purchased this amongst our field crews. And they said, oh, number one, I will not be out of town for 6 months, Monday through Friday. And number two, the safety aspect that I'm not, number one, I'm out there, and number two, I'm not going to be in the roadway. So it's been a huge win so far on these on our NDOT projects that we've been working on.
Well, and Brian, you're a professional land surveyor, and I'm sure you've been a surveyor for a while now. And so you've seen firsthand how hard it can be for anyone who's in that role to spend time away from their family, to have to put themselves in some of those not very fun situations, possibly hazardous situations. And so for you, especially given your background, I would imagine that it feels good to be able to offer something to your employees that you know is going to improve not just their professional job, but their work-life balance and everything that goes along with that.
I would agree. And I think what we're finding now is that just given the amount of data that is collected from a scanning terrestrial based or a mobile mapped, that we really need to add staff on the back end, because the feature line extraction, the post processing, you're taking time from the field and you're putting it more in an office setting. And so we are already making plans to add more office staff to sit at a computer to work on feature extractions, break lines, edges of roadway, joints, center lines, trees, just your typical topographic items. And that's very appealing to a lot of people to say to themselves, well, I'm interested in a surveying career, but I'm not so interested in the hot of the summer or the cold of the winter, but I still want to be involved in this industry somehow. So, okay, let's put you at a desk. Let's put you at a workstation, and let's start doing a feature line extraction. And you can be involved in this industry in surveying in that capacity. And I think we're going to find that that is very appealing to, especially the younger generation that is that's not so interested in being in the field all day, every day.
All those digital natives, right? So you mentioned the back office processes and how you do need to add staff there, but I know that's been a significant hurdle to a lot of firms in the past, moving from even from 3D tripod-based laser scanning into mobile mapping, because now you're collecting so much more data, so much faster, that you create this bottleneck in the office. Now I know that the claims of the Pegasus TRK are that there's a lot of automation in there to alleviate that bottleneck. And I'm curious if that's what you've seen, if that was one of your decision-making factors in going with a TRK, because you are not a Leica shop. You don't have a lot of other Leica tools, but you decided that for mobile mapping, you wanted to go with a Leica Pegasus TRK. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so we're fortunate enough to, have our systems down pretty pat the way we had before, as far as the survey equipment. We're able to integrate the survey equipment that we currently have with the Leica system in terms of how we're collecting, static data, and how we're still, collecting data on ground control and all that. We're able to integrate that with the Leica system that we have purchased with the TRK 700. So making the jump towards that was not overly difficult. And we did a significant amount of research going into it, the different systems that were out there. And we found that the integrated SLAM and GPS and IMU and all that, the way that they work pretty seamlessly in a single software back at the office, as opposed to a lot of the competitors that you have 5 or 6 different software packages that you have to move files from here to here to here, and there was a lot of opportunity for human error to be introduced.
Yes.
So it wasn't as much a file size limitation that that sent us towards the TRK 700, because we have done the terrestrial, and I've actually found that the terrestrial scanning or the tripod based scanning seems to have larger file sizes typically, just because if I'm moving, that scanner, to 100 different places on a site and running it for 6 minutes a piece, where I could have driven for 10 minutes, even though they're both collecting at about 1,000,000 points per second, I'm having a lot more, seconds of actual collection when I'm running with that. And so I have a bigger raw file that has to be parsed down, whereas with this unit, it's all pretty consistent on the density of data throughout the project site. And so we haven't seen a big jump in file management responsibilities when we added the TRK 700 um, to the to the toolbox that we have here. It was just kind of a continuation of a direction we were already going in terms of how we were managing file sizes that are getting larger, because when you do collect data in 3 dimensions versus those single dimension points that you're just getting and then applying feature codes to, it does dramatically increase the file sizes that you have to manage. But fortunately nowadays, with storage prices coming down so significantly over the last 5 years, it hasn't been overly difficult. And we're very blessed here at RW to have a number of very technically savvy individuals and IT folks that work in-house. So we're not always having to go outside to a third party to do troubleshooting or to make research or decisions on
IT decisions.
Yeah. We have people who have been doing it for decades here in office that can help um, inform those decisions, not just on what to purchase, but how to put everything together and design it in a way that works efficiently with the file sizes that we're getting from the TRK 700 or our terrestrial scanners or aerial LiDAR or any of the other big data tools that we're using these days.
Well, you saw
And I
everything going. Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say, to answer your question from my perspective, yes, RW is not a Leica shop. We've used a competitor for many years, and with a purchase the size, the financial bite that we knew we would take to go the route of mobile mapping, we decided that number one, we needed to do our due diligence. We needed to investigate and have demonstrations of all the systems on the market currently, because we needed to find which one fit for us. There's the financial component, obviously, but what was the ease of use? So, from my perspective, I did not want to get deep in the weeds on the nitty gritty specs of the mobile mapping. What I was more focused on during the exploratory phase was how easy is it to use? Mm-hmm. Because eventually, somebody like Andrew, who is the coordinator of our scanning department, he will need to start managing people doing the actual work. Mm-hmm. So if it's really tech heavy and it's not user friendly, that is going to be a much steeper learning curve for others within our organization to come in and start using, to mount it on the truck, to drive the site, to operate the software while you're driving the site. We experienced with some other competing units that it was not user friendly at all. There was a lot of hardware components, and I was turned off. But then when we had the Leica demo for the TRK 700, it was streamlined. The hardware was streamlined. The software was streamlined. And I said to myself, this is a system that we can train multiple people to use so that we have redundancy of knowledge of how to operate this unit, so that if somebody calls in sick or if an employee decides to go somewhere else in their career, we have multiple people that can use this device that have already been trained, because the learning curve is so flat for this TRK 700 that we can get multiple people online, at least doing the hardware side of things, fairly quickly. We can build that redundancy of knowledge within our organization, and then Andrew can get to the business of managing people and managing more projects than him doing all the steps himself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it really puts your firm in a position of being able to do a lot more work and much bigger projects with your existing team, or maybe adding just a few people rather than having to add an entire new team for mobile mapping or an entire new team for a specific project. You can really make good use of your resources by using technology.
Certainly, yeah. the fact that we're able to knock out 25 miles like that,
Mhm.
that was going to be a whole crew for half of a year that now has other projects that they can work on. So, just in one project, it's like getting half a crew for a year, and we
Well,
have
and
others that are like as well. So
that has to be
it's a,
appealing to the clients that you work with too, because they don't have to wait in line. You're able to
yes.
quickly mobilize and move from one project to another. They need something. Okay, great. We can get that to you. We can move quickly. And of course, now everything has to be done yesterday, right?
Oh, yeah. If
Exactly.
not earlier than that. So
Right.
one of the benefits we've seen with this unit specifically, and I know Brian touched on it just a little bit, is the hardware component is pretty universal to any vehicle. I mean, we put it on top of, our truck or another truck. Either way, we're not having to do a lot of calibration and everything that we would have to do with other units. So this, we could get a rental truck and fly it somewhere if we wanted to. So that's expands our opportunities as a company.
Well, so I'm wondering, is this a camera trick? Because it looks really small for a mobile mapping unit. And of course, we can't tell on the camera exactly where that's positioned. Is it as small as it looks?
It's it's small enough that one person can get it up on top of the truck with the proper uh, ergonomic situation, so you're not having to reach too high with something too heavy. The handles on it are placed to where one person can manage it. Every other unit that I've either demoed or spent time with has required a two-person lift, and the handles are placed for a two-person lift. Um, and so, in a situation like where we're driving 6.5, 7, 10 hours away from our office, sometimes it's a little easier to get one person out there to do the work than it is to get two people. So, I know we talked about saving on employee capital. Um, and that's one way that this unit has satisfied that.
That's a big deal. And so, have you used this technology, the Pegasus TRK 700? Have you used it on actual projects already? You've had it for a couple months now, right?
Yep.
Oh, yes.
Yep. I think we've got about 5 projects completed, with a number coming up. So it's it's spent time on the truck instead of sitting in the storage room. So which is
So
what
you
we
had to
bought it
fight
for.
somebody to get it on set for our interview then, because somebody wanted to have it out in the field. But I'm curious, what has your experience been on those projects? Has it lived up to your expectations?
Oh yeah, it's been pretty smooth sailing so far. I mean, there's always updates that need to be added. It's a very rapidly moving section, so there's updates to software back at the office and the hardware that we take out into the field. But our representative that we've been working with um, for Leica, Kyle Palmer, he's done a great job keeping in contact with us, getting us in contact with you. And he's generally been just a good source of information. Whenever we have a question, he's been real quick to answer and
Definitely.
to keep us going. So we have yet to come up against a big, speed bump, I guess. Things have been pretty smooth sailing so far.
Yeah, I would echo what Andrew said about the service that Leica has provided us through our sales rep, Kyle Palmer. There has been several just little small little issues that we have had to work through, just your typical bugs that you work out when you're new to any sort of technology and system and process. And Kyle has been amazing at returning your calls within minutes, or you send him a text and you say, hey, do you have 5 minutes, can you give me a call? He will respond almost immediately, and he always has an answer. Or if he doesn't have an answer, he is quick to say, I'm going to jump into the talent pool at Leica and find somebody that could give me an answer. So so far with our experience with Leica, it's just been a great experience, and we cannot sing your praises enough for just the quality of the product as well as the service that is backing up your product.
Well, and that is fabulous to hear. It must be reassuring to you, though, too, when a company like RW Engineering, I mean, you acquire a technology like this and you have to hit the ground running. That technology, that investment that you've made has to give you a return as quickly as possible. And so that must, the service aspect and the support aspect must be an important piece of your decision making when you look at a technology like this.
Definitely. If you have downtime because we are waiting on our equipment vendor to solve a problem, that doesn't work for anybody. Then you have to question yourself, why did we go with a particular brand? So, I mean, so far, Leica has just been amazing to work with, and we just can't sing the praises enough of Kyle and how he's just always there and ready to help at a moment's notice.
That's fabulous. You mentioned the personnel aspects, the safety aspects, the quick turnaround on projects. I wonder if there was anything else that really made you decide, okay, now is the time that we have to move into mobile mapping. We can't wait any longer. Was there a business driver that made you decide that you had to make that move?
Well,
Had you
I'll
been
answer that question.
outsourcing?
Yeah, I'll answer that question. So, more specifically, our state DOT, in order to do certain projects, they require a mobile mapping component. Meaning, if you do this work for us, you need to have a mobile mapper or subcontract a mobile mapping company, and you're the prime. And what we had found in the past is that we were missing out on projects because we did not have a mobile mapper. We would get the projects, but we would subcontract it out to a company that does mobile mapping. And when it's all said and done, we were giving about 80 to 85% of that contract was going out of the door to our subconsultant to do the mobile mapping. And after a few of those, you say to yourself, it's time for us to make that step because we are just giving away so much of the contract to a sub when we have the talent. We had the talent, we had everything in place, we just didn't have the equipment. And so it became easy to make that decision to say, yes, this is a large financial bite for a company our size of 25 people. But ultimately, I think we knew that it would work out, that it would pencil out in the end, and that moving down or going down the road 3-5 years will have a large return on our investment. And then at the end of product life, let's say 10 years, the return on investment we feel will just blow us away in terms of what we were able to accomplish. So yes, ultimately we did the calculations, we did the math to see, is this where we want to be, can we afford this? And really it came down to, how can we not afford to have this? Is one of the big things, is because if we want to do more work, if we're just giving money away to our sub consultants, what's the point?
Right. And I know also when early on, when I had come on to RW, we had a project that was right in our wheelhouse. It was a client that, we've worked many times with in the past. And it was a project that we really felt we were going to get. And then we ended up not getting it. And we found out through the grapevine that another company from, a few hours away was able to come in and under budget us by about 50%. So significant savings. And we, Russ and Brian came to me and asked, what's going on with this? And said, well, the only way they're making money is if they're utilizing mobile mapping in order to get this project. And being that they're a few hours away, there's no way they're doing this traditionally. And sure enough, that's what was going on. And that just kind of, put out in the tea leaves that we're either going to need to get on board with the technology or we're going to get left behind. Our competition is going to surpass us if we're not, up front and at the forefront of technology here. And it's been playing out that way ever since. And we're seeing now that we're getting into the technology and really getting projects done, we're seeing how our competitors were able to undercut us, because we're seeing the numbers roll in after completing projects and saying, okay, now that makes sense how they're able to do what they were doing. And it's going to be very difficult for companies in the future to keep up with the traditional tools without having this, as kind of a backbone for some of those, longer linear projects, or even some other types that this does well. So it's kind of
When
a
you
put up or
You mentioned the firm size, 25 people. I would bet that there are some clients you have that have no idea how small RW engineering is because of how quickly you're able to turn around those projects.
Definitely. I mean, that's been one of, when I go on business development meetings, that's one of my big selling points is, look at the size of our company, 25 people. Look at what we're doing. Look at the amount of financial commitments we're making to purchasing equipment, the commitments we're making to staffing to staff to handle that work. And I think we're doing a lot more with fewer people as compared to some of our much larger competitors. I mean, that's one of the beauties of the mobile mapper, is that we can do more work with the same amount of people. But as I said, we're taking people out of the field and we're going to put them in office chairs in front of a workstation to do the post-processing of the data and the feature extraction. So I think we're going to see a lot more growth at RW from an office personnel standpoint, as opposed to a field personnel standpoint. And generally, it's been the opposite in the past decades. Is to do more work, you had to add more people.
Where does RW engineering go next with all of this?
So I think one thing that we're looking at to expand into is the monitoring and the inspection side of civil engineering / surveying, where we can use the mobile mapper to do joint and pavement analysis for roadways to determine what kind of percentage of the roadway is still viable, what is beyond repair. You could do bridge inspection work, because with the unit being 360 degree, you can drive the underneath of a bridge and you're going to get a vast amount of data that is really only available to somebody in like a cherry picker or a bucket basket, where you have to drive under it, you have to do your inspection, and then you're just doing tape measure and photographs. Whereas if we scan it with the mobile mapper, we have a vast amount of data that is usable almost immediately for somebody that wants to do bridge inspections on the top or on the underneath. And so I think what the exciting part about the TRK 700 is our ability to find new ways to use it. And I think as time goes on, we will find new ways to use it. We'll find workflows that we're doing today that we could use the mobile mapper for, in much more efficiently, much quicker, vast amounts of data that eliminates second, third, fourth trips to a job site, because we already have the data from the first trip. And I think we will just continue to find new ways to use it as time goes on. And then we'll probably be kicking ourselves when we say, why didn't we think of that earlier? I mean, it'll be so obvious once we figure that out, but until you get to that point, you don't know it. But then when you get there, it's like a light bulb goes off, and you get excited because, oh, here's other revenue streams that we could possibly exploit using the TRK 700.
Well, it sounds like we're really entering that phase. We at Leica, we've had this phrase that we've said even since the earlier iterations of the Pegasus mobile mapping system: map it once, use it many times. It sounds like that is actually what's happening now, that companies like RW Engineering are recognizing the value of that, but also your clients are recognizing the value of that, where before it was just really very immediate project focus. They just want to focus on what do I need right now? I don't care about the future. I just need this data right now. Now they're able to step back and say, oh, that has value way into the future.
Definitely. It's always that adoption is one of just the big hurdles initially, especially with your client base. where some of your clients are very progressive and they want to embrace the new technologies and they love the new technologies. And then you have a percentage of your client base that anything out of the ordinary, anything new, they're immediately hesitant. They don't trust the technology. They don't trust the accuracy of the work. And so those are the ones that take time to try and convince. And some will come on board. Some might never come on board. But
what we have that works well with our system here, that the TRK plus our back end software that we're working with down the line, is we're able to offer to those clients that are hesitant to adopt new technologies. They don't need to get this fancy 3D deliverable. We can, quote unquote, dumb down all this data into something that they're more familiar with. So we're not really impacting their workflows or our clients' workflow. We're really just streamlining our workflow, but having the option when they do decide to embrace new technology, that we can expand their deliverable to something a little bit more modern, I guess.
Well, and they still get the benefits of the greater efficiency, the faster turnaround on the project, and at the end of the day, the accuracy, of course, which is very important. So all of that comes into play. What do you most want people to know about RW Engineering? You have new capabilities. You're able to do all of this great work with a very lean and efficient team. What else do you want people to know?
I would just say that we're a 25-person civil engineering and land surveying company. We do traditional surveying. We do machine control modeling. We do construction staking and layout. We do scanning from terrestrial based to mobile mapping to aerial based LiDAR scanning currently. And I would just challenge anybody to find a company of our size that is adopting these technologies at the rapid rate that we are adopting these technologies and using them in our everyday workflows.
Mm-hmm. Certainly, we're small and scrappy, is I believe what Kyle, how he termed it.
Oh.
But we're quick to respond and quick to get work done.
Absolutely. Well, Brian Yentes and Andrew Pokorny from RW Engineering, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you very much, Christy.
Be sure to check out the description for additional resources on this topic. If you enjoyed this content, give us a like. If you'd like to see more of this content, be sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on the Tech Insider.